Hi everyone, welcome to the exciting new podcast for first year students in section 1 and section 3. You've got a combined podcast this week for the weeks of September 25th and October 2nd, and I'll come back to the fact that they are combined a little bit later. Let's just look at some important reminders about these podcasts. First of all, you will have already noticed that I didn't plug in any of your Gen Ed courses, any of your general education courses onto the master schedule. That would be English, French, Humanities, Gym. And so if you are taking any of those courses, and we hope that you are, then you will need to plug those into your own schedule, including any of the assignments, readings, homework, etc. that are related to those courses. So that's important to keep in mind. Also, I cannot guarantee that I have all of the information from your teachers in time to put into any of these podcasts. So there might be assignments that are missing that I don't cover. Always best to double check in that case. Also, keep in mind that sometimes teachers change their mind and do crazy things like giving an extension on an assignment to the whole class. And so, as I say, if there are any discrepancies between what I'm saying in the podcast and what you think you're hearing in class from your teachers, always double check. That's the best idea. In the last podcast, I invited you to post your comments with any tips and strategies that you have found effective for staying organized and managing your time, and promised that you would become a podcast star. Well, this week we have a shout out to Catherine Fortin, who is one of your fellow ECE students. She turned me on to this great website, thecosmicroad.com. It's a great source for motivational tips and organizational tips, all kinds of resources for how to succeed in school. So that's what the landing page looks like, The Cosmic Road. They've got stuff on there about studying for exams, might be handy as you're studying for your midterms. How to create oral presentations, and they also have information like this, so blank templates that you can use to organize your schoolwork. This is the kind of thing that you could be using to list all of your assignments for the entire semester. So thanks, Catherine. All right, before we get to the assignments, I just want to talk to you a little bit about organizing your time between classes. This is also an important aspect of time management. I know first years often have a little bit longer time to find their way around and get used to everything and their scheduling, but let me ask you, first years, has this ever been you in one of your classes? Have you ever had to go? Well, my tip for you is to go pee on your breaks. I know it seems like a dumb thing to say, but a lot of times students realize in the middle of a class that they have to go, and then they get up and go, and that can be disruptive for teachers and fellow students, and can also be perceived as disrespectful. And I have actually heard some feedback from some of your teachers about this. So if you are like this chihuahua and you have to go to the bathroom, go on your breaks. If you're still needing some more motivation about that, in a future podcast, I can take you guys on a tour of some of the nicer bathrooms that we have here in the N building. All right, let's look at some assignments. Before we look forward to the weeks of September 25th and October 2nd, let's just take a step back. I know you had your first test in the Affective Relationships course last week, and so in collaboration with Jean, in the upcoming podcast, I am going to share some tips about how to get the most out of the feedback you get on your test. If you don't get 100% on your first test in affective relationships, how can you interpret those results and do better going forward? And so that will help you in Jean's course, but will help you in all your different courses as well. So that will be important. Stay tuned for that. All right, so here is your schedule for the weeks of September 25th and October 2nd. You will see down at the bottom there's a turkey there. Here, that's Thanksgiving on October 9th. There's no school that day, but there is no change of schedule that week, so that's important to keep in mind. All right, so first thing I want to point out is an assignment for my class. On Monday, September 25th, your 3 anecdotes are due for the observing course. And to prepare for the observing lab that week also, I would like you to decide on the targeted behavior you're going to use for your ABC event sampling. We'll talk more about that in class on Monday, but just giving you the heads up on that. Also, for the observing course, I will be loading up onto Omnivox some tips about how to read the textbook in the most effective and efficient way possible. So have a look at that. Also, I'm going to encourage you to start work on the research paper assignment. I know it's not due for a while, but it's never too early to start. So step one would be to read the reading packs that are on Omnivox. And as you read, take notes, specifically focusing on any similarities or points that are the same between some of the different sources that you're reading in the reading packs. Take note of any great quotes that you think you might want to use in your research paper. And also, I always think it's a good idea to summarize each source that I read in a short paragraph. So when you do go back and consult your notes, that will help you to stay on track with that. All right, also for the Intro to ECE class, Amy has invited Carrie Clow from Task to come in and give a workshop on writing a research paper. This will also help you for the observing class research paper and APA formatting. So that is a really important class to attend that week. This is going to segue into the research paper for Intro, which is due on October 19th. And as you already know, Amy would like you to send or show her the 2 scholarly articles that you have selected for your research paper before proceeding any further. And so there, as I say, this workshop will be very helpful, so I encourage you all to attend. Finally, in the week of October 5th, you have your midterm in the Intro to ECE class. That's worth 20% of your final mark. I just do have a couple of little tips for studying for that class. First of all, you will want to consult the study guide that Amy will supply for you. And also, this is secret insider information. I've been chatting with Amy and spying on her for you. And from what I understand, the PowerPoints are important. Not saying that's all that's going to be on the test, but the PowerPoints are important. Enough said. All right, going forward. I would like us to keep thinking about personalizing these podcasts, and this brings us back to why I grouped Section 1 and Section 3 together. I would like to challenge you guys to come up with a fun name for your section. Section 1, Section 3, that's pretty boring. So maybe something more interesting like We're Number 1. That's a kind of a classic. And maybe 3 is We for Section 3. And if you guys do come up with a fun section name, I promise I will never combine the sections in one podcast ever again. As usual, post your comments on YouTube after you have viewed the podcast. Remember that a full transcript is available. And also stay tuned for the next announcement, because that will mean there's a new podcast ready for you. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye.